Okay, so welcome everyone. Today we're discussing the topic of access management and the blockchain. So bring everybody up to date about this project. I'm going to share to you a screen.
So what's the agenda first?
The agenda, let's go over some of the objectives we're supposed to fulfill for this project. We have something to submit today and something to submit by the end of the week. So for those of you joining, there's two things going on here. There is a contract for delivering a feasibility study about access management and the blockchain, and there is an ongoing Sensorica project that involves access management in the context of the sharing economy.
Okay. This is the project page. On the Sensorica side, right?
Yes.
Okay. You want to speak about the
project requirements?
project? Yeah, you have to share a screen, Jim.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Here. You want to share it if you have it open?
I have it open.
Yeah, but he's not signing to the Hangout.
I'm not on the Hangout.
Yeah,
I could be. Hold on.
It's okay, I got it. Screen share.
So before you get that, Jim, just to mention that this project on the Sensorica website, the Sensorica side of the project is we're using the NRP to structure it, to manage it, and to log our contributions. So this is a chart of how many people have contributed up to now. I know some of you guys haven't logged your time. So
No, we haven't logged yet.
Okay. I did log yesterday.
Okay.
And some other things, infrastructure development. Yeah, so for those who want to participate in a project, you just go to Sensorica and just search blockchain access, and you're gonna end up on this page, and you have a big button to subscribe here if you want to join the project, and everything you need to know is here, and if it's not here, just contact the community and we'll put it there. Jimmy, you were sharing your screen?
Yeah, just a second.
So who's in the room? Let's present ourselves.
Yeah, let's say a little hello, a little round table.
Oui, bonjour, moi c'est Valentin, je vais parler essentiellement français, mais je comprends très bien l'anglais et compagnie. Moi je suis plus mon point fort sur tout ce qui est analyse stratégique, infrastructure, expérience utilisateur et autres. Voilà.
Hi, I'm Mike. I have a background in computer engineering math, and I've been following the whole cryptocurrency blockchain space for some time, and looking to work on this particular project to see where it can go. Jim?
Yeah, I've been studying blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies not for too long, actually. It's been a little bit, probably over a year. I was very attracted to the technology itself. I've been exploring a lot of different use cases. I've modeled a couple of areas of public health, some resource management for Sensorica's use case for the OVN also. I've been doing a lot of research for implementing blockchain technology on that. I've also been a big advocate, and I pretty much talk about it on a regular basis. I've gotten into smart contracts, but lately I've been really studying consensus protocols for the last few months. I spend a lot of time in the research forum on Ethereum, looking at different strategies and what everybody's trying to do to come up with a one-size blockchain protocol fits all type scheme. We're not there yet, that's for sure. So I think that there's a lot of exploration to do in that, and I think that's going to be one of the things I'm focusing on this study is which particular subset of blockchain technologies we're gonna apply for the proof of concept.
I'm TB. I'm just understanding at the surface blockchain, but I'm more focusing on peer-to-peer processes, mostly at the user level and mostly at the economic level. So my interest here is to understand what are the trends of our current society under the pressure of these new technologies, and and see how we can build infrastructures to support these trends. This is going to be my participation. I'm going to dig a little bit more because I want to get acquainted with blockchain technology, but I'm going to stay more at that layer of user experience, user interface linked to newly emerging economic structures and governance. Yannick, come closer. Huh?
It's Jean.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, Abraham?
Yeah, hi, this is Abraham. I have a background in electrical engineering, and I'm not that well versed in blockchain. But over the past few months, before that, my only understanding of blockchain was limited to bitcoins. But over the past few months, I've been looking into other implementation using blockchains, and I see a lot of potential in it, and that's why I'm involved in the project. I'm a newbie, but I do have lots of ideas, so I hope to explore what the possibilities are, especially with a project like this.
All right,
All
so
right.
that's it for now. Jimmy, you sharing your screen?
Yes. Okay. So just to start off, some of the requirements that we need to fulfill for the contract that's at hand right now. Oh yeah, just an overview. We started last week. We had a little kickoff meeting. We basically made a links of a lot of relevant material, and I think a lot of people started reading up and just curating a bit of the just some of the points from the material they've been reading. I think today we should go around and basically take all that and aggregate and structure it into some kind of document that we could present for today.
Just for clarification, the meeting was with our two partners, right?
Yeah.
So we should talk about our partners.
Yes. So our partners, we have eVision. I think you could better explain a bit.
Well, eVision is a local computer company, software company here in Montreal. They also have, I think, offices in Sherbrooke City or Quebec City.
Yeah, I think somewhere
They have
else.
2 or 3 locations, and they have a lot of experience with government contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second partner is Living Labs. It's a small team that has been working on conceptualizing the sharing economy, mostly related to shared spaces like co-working spaces, Fab Labs, public places, and how all this comes together into a sort of a platform accessible to anybody, platform of shared spaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Accessible to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So these are our partners. Officially, the contract with the federal government for this particular project, which is with the IRAP CNRC, the Canadian National Research Council, is managed by eVision, who have a lot of experience with the government contracts. And as partners, we focus on the blockchain technology side of it, right?
Yes.
So, put you back to your document, Jimmy?
Okay, so the requirements, we need to produce a page just with a general overview of blockchain technology, just to help overcome some of the communication challenges and the significance of this new set of technologies in a language that's pretty much accessible to non-experts. I think it would be good to also note some of the challenges that we might face in this project. So I'll just add a few things that I've been thinking about. The main question is, why does a project like this need blockchain technology? So I think that's something that should fit into this paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll make notes, yeah.
Yeah, so why blockchain for this project?
Versus what's currently being done anyway.
Yes. So it is a bit of a comparative study.
I can take notes if you speak.
Okay.
Focus on speaking.
Okay, sure. We also need to point out and ensure that the technology is robust and scalable and covers the technical and the financial viability. We need to collaborate to the functional requirement analysis of the intended system. So that's basically the key performance indicators.
Okay.
So that's the blockchain's technology's fitness in terms of agreed upon KPIs like security, privacy, performance, trust, disruptive potential. I think that ties into a bit of the paradigm shift that this technology would allow. That's something that Tibi has been talking about, covering a little bit. We also need to collaborate the design of a prototype. Okay. So there is a current access management system made by Kaba, which is a local Montreal company. And we need to access their API and add, make a proof of concept.
Is Kaba from here?
What's that?
Kaba's from here?
Yeah, Kaba's in Montreal, or they have offices in Montreal, but
Yeah,
I do
okay.
believe they're a Montreal-based company.
Okay.
We need to provide an estimate for implementation of this system for, I think, the particular use type. There's a third party in this project, which is Desjardins also, which is a potential client.
Yeah, they're a test user, right?
Yes, test user test case.
User test case, yeah.
Yeah. I notice there's a few lines here that are just redundant. It's the same thing repeated over again.
Just different wording.
So from the meeting we had last Friday with eVision, we noticed that there's a bit of a problem with what problem we are trying to solve. Okay. So I think to establish that in this paragraph that we need to complete today, in this page that we need to complete today, we need to establish what is the problem that we are trying to solve. Okay. And I think that there's different levels that works on, and we discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody want to share a little bit what they think about that?
Well, I mean, essentially we're trying to replace a network layer that current access control technologies use, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the network layer that we would be replacing right now is either, depending on the type of access control that type of access control topology that people use, it's either localized solution, so say locks communicate with a local server not connected to the internet,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a online database with a whitelist, a permissible whitelist of users, and all of the different network configurations related to that. There's a bunch of different ways of doing it, even in the old way, and we need to find, or we need to determine how we could replace all of those existing configurations, like the network layer, with a blockchain.
Yeah.
So it's essentially maintaining a distributed database of permissions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then how would we integrate within the blockchain? Is there not a cryptocurrency aspect, but like a token exchange or something every time there's an access, or
We had a discussion a little bit about that this morning.
Because
and
that was another thing I just want to quickly touch on. There
Yeah.
was the idea of either implementing it as a private blockchain, so still use the same blockchain as a data structure, but not plugged into an existing system, or an existing system, quote unquote, like Ethereum, right? Like implementing the smart access contract
yes.
on a blockchain technology like Ethereum, or even Bitcoin to some extent, or having the entire thing be not locally hosted, but managed internally, right? Like having a separate.
Juste,
Valentin would like to
ouais,
add something.
je voudrais juste parce que c'est vrai que depuis le début, on parle, en fait, depuis le début, on parle beaucoup de savoir si on fait une blockchain privée, une blockchain publique.
Okay.
Et je suis en train de me demander, je pense que le problème, il n'est pas tellement là. Le
Okay.
problème, il est de savoir quel type de consensus.
Mhm.
C'est-à-dire, est-ce que les nœuds qui vont vérifier,
Mhm.
est-ce qu'ils vont être. Parce que peu importe que la blockchain elle soit privée ou publique, ce qui est important, c'est quel mécanisme va être en jeu
Mhm.
pour que eux, selon leurs objectifs à eux, si leurs objectifs à eux, c'est de vérifier que c'est eux qui contrôlent l'entrée, que ta blockchain elle soit privée ou qu'elle soit publique, peu importe.
Ok.
Tu vois ce que je veux te dire? On se focus, c'est vrai, on se dit, hey, on fait public, privé. En fait, c'est. Ça
Yeah,
dépend
that's
Yeah.
irrelevant. That
aussi.
depends on the function of a
Right.
particular system.
Exactement.
That's all. That's about what data you want to expose, basically.
Exactement.
Parce-
C'est pour
parce
ça
what
qu'on
I-
se demande si c'est public ou privé, mais je suis pas sûr que le problème soit vraiment là. Quel système est-ce qu'ils veulent de vérification, de contrôle?
So you have a bunch of different existing access management
Yeah.
infrastructure in place already,
Yeah.
okay, which doesn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
That's what I see as a topology. You could have very high security access management systems for certain locations. You could have other ones that are government buildings or banks or whatever, and then you have like a more open access use case. So these are all the different components of the
Yeah.
system. And some of them use legacy hardware, legacy systems. Some of them use new software. Some of them might use a Raspberry Pi, connected to a door with an RFID card in some Fab Lab, like we've done. Okay, all these systems don't know how to talk to each other. So that layer of trust. Hi, how are you? Good.
So the main problem, yeah.
The main problem is that these systems, and I think the main problem to solve here is how do you provide a general overview of these systems? How do you track them? Some of them you might need to audit them on a wide range. We're talking like nation from one side of the nation to the other.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say the government has buildings where they
Yeah.
need to manage access. Okay, but certain buildings have different infrastructure in place,
Yeah.
different technology in place. Okay, this technology binds them all together, provides a layer of trust in between all of them.
Allez-y.
So just to put it in more clarification now from
Yeah.
me. There are, in this particular project, there are two main stakeholders. One that is priority because they are paying, which is the federal government.
Okay.
And we're working with this department in the government that oversees physical assets for the government. So they're the ones that manage government buildings.
Mhm.
So they have a direct interest in our findings. Their reality is this: they have multiple places and different security levels,
Mhm.
from very, very high secure to low security, and the bureaucracy and the costs to manage all that is huge. Okay, it's a very complex system. So that's one use case, and the other one, which you mentioned, Jim, is the Caisse des Jardins. Caisse des Jardins is a federation of credit
Union.
Credit union. So that's interesting. It's a federation. It's not a bank
Like a
like a
co-op.
Yes,
monolithic
you're right, yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
So they have their own local management of their branches, and they federate within this larger umbrella structure. So that's another use case, and so they're interested to see access to their own buildings, and there is also talk or discussion within this Caisse des Jardins to open some of their spaces to the public, to have co-working spaces or business incubators within the structure of the credit union, right? So here you see a sort of a more complex structure, which is a federation that opens some of their spaces to the public, right? So it's a you see a blend of closed and open and federated spaces, right? So these are the two use cases. The first one is more important because the government is the one that pays, and I think we should align ourselves to get the next contract, which is more towards implementation of this technology.
Yes.
But
I think it's also
one
that.
test case is the credit union.
Sorry to interrupt you. If we do, if we do make it feasible for the use case of the government, I think the other ones are easy to apply after.
Yeah,
It's a more general case.
Well, it's a more general case, but also probably has the strictest security requirements and
Yeah,
things like
all,
that.
all
I
access
mean,
levels.
if it's feasible for something that's high security, then
Easier to implement.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
As well
guys,
as- yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to go back to what Jim pointed out. His first point was that we need to map out the user case for the government. I think we got a good description, but I just wanted to know, like, is there a department that we can collaborate with to understand their current system? Mike also pointed out that there are many different companies or contractors that will be providing this service right now, like access control. Some might be local, some might be connected, but do we have can we get a sample just to understand what kind of technology they're currently using?
Yes, Abran, that's in the hands of our partner, Living Labs. They're in contact with one of these companies that supply these access systems.
Is this Kaba?
Yes, it's Kaba.
Kaba,
Yeah.
and they're looking
Which is
at
Swiss.
their API. And Jim, when we were talking about the project before, you mentioned, being also as a requirement, being able to kind of interface with legacy systems,
Mhm.
right? That's
Well-
something I can talk to these guys, which are already implemented
Right.
Yes.
and operational.
I'm referring to legacy, but I'm talking about anything that's existing right now.
Yeah,
So
But at the same time, the reason I was talking specifically about government departments is because, from what I understand from our last meeting, Kaba is only interested in hotel management, like access to hotels.
well, so
No.
here's how the
It's much
discussion.
broader than that.
Here's how the discussion went on Friday. So Living Labs has had this project for a long time, okay, and they just recently acquired the use case Desjardins. It was expected for them to come up with the topology of the system, and I don't think that they have anything developed yet. And it's kind of emerging that I think we're going to have to come up of how the blockchain all fits into this.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they know.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the discussion shifted more towards focusing on the government's use case
Mhm.
for this, at least to provide a proof of concept,
Yeah, I guess the consensus was that if Caisse Desjardins, who is also a financial institution and they do care about security, if they think already that there's something in there for them,
Yeah.
it's enough confidence for the government to say, well, okay, if they decided that, we can invest in it more.
Well,
Ça,
vas-y.
ça après, mon opinion, c'est, je pense que les fintech, c'est déjà du passé.
Les quoi?
Les
Financial
technologies,
technology.
je pense que c'est déjà du passé là, si tu veux. Sauf que toutes les boîtes comme Desjardins, RBC ont créé elles-mêmes leur propre structure de service à l'intérieur. Si tu veux, c'est pour ça que moi, d'un point de vue stratégique, je ne pense pas que si tu veux se diriger vers cette espèce de.
You're talking about blockchain application as a financial technology.
Yeah.
We're talking. I think this is a discussion about something more. We're looking at blockchain as a.
As a
You want to call it as a distributed ledger technology or database replication technology. More than that too.
No. This project, Caisse Desjardins is interested in this project not for transactions.
Yeah.
No,
For
it's
access to
no.
space.
It's for access to space.
Yes, access only.
As you could, think about it. It's an IoT project.
Yeah.
And, it's
Exactly.
It's
No,
an IoT project,
that's
right?
the thing, is we also have to determine the issue that this technology could solve, like the problem that this solves for them, right?
Yes.
Because they already have this problem solved, in for the most part. I mean, it's not solved. They have an existing set of connected or disconnected technologies that sort of works, right?
Yeah.
What we're trying to put in is an umbrella that would cover everything, first of all, and then secondly, also like pull away from having the server infrastructure, like managing the databases, doing all of that would be sort of transparent for them, right? Like they wouldn't have to, because right now they probably farm that technology out to somebody, right? There's like Kaba probably gets paid a subscription fee or something on a monthly basis to manage all of this stuff for them,
yes.
right? So that's kind of what we're going after, is solving this problem for them. It's like making what is it that the blockchain can bring that they can't already do themselves, right? Which would be distributing the access, like not having to be reliant on.
Well, I don't think that the topic is about changing existing systems or management systems. It's about adding an extra layer to them.
Right. Or replacing that layer. No?
I'm gonna say like one thing would be cost cutting. Like in real terms, cost cutting would be one thing that the government is always gonna look for. The other would be, as you pointed out, ease of upgrading or ease of implementing it in newer places. So that's, like when I read through the UK study that Jim uploaded, that was the biggest point as well. Like ease of use. Like can you just have one place that updates, or one place that puts in a change and it's automatically updated across all the different databases? In the current system, if you have distributed but localized networks, you'll have to go to each of those networks and update it. But if you have a blockchain technology, that's something that is inherent in it. Like you update it at one place, you grant access to a key at one place, and right away across all the different networks it works. So the two things that I think would be really important for the government is cost cutting, and the second one also ties with the cost cutting is ease of upgrading or ease of changing to the new system, or ease of maintaining the new system. So I think these are the two things that the government would be interested. Other things, like other possibilities that come out of it, would be secondary or tertiary to them. But these are the two main things that we should focus on.
So I think what emerges here, which is always the same thing, you know, when you come up with a new technology, you have to think about implementation costs, switching costs. Switching costs means I already use a system. How much do I have to throw it away and install a new one? And then there is the life cycle costs, right? So how can I upgrade the new system that I have? How can I make sure that it is upgradable, adaptable for future changes of my institution or my ways of operating, right? And this is cool. This is the first time we wrap this thing. I'm going to write it here as a sort of a high-level design requirements.
So I think that's one main thing for the study. When we do a feasibility study, that's something that should be taken care of, like looking into all the different costs. But we are going way far in advance. I think we should go back to the first part, that is like describing the problem. I think we're almost through it, but there might be some points.
Okay.
So another thing is that we have not been given a problem to solve.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
I was thinking along the same lines.
And we have not been assigned a topology to follow.
So we create our own problem and we create our own solution. That's the perfect.
Well, I mean, I think we could see the problems that are emerging, right?
Yeah, so, and there's two layers of consultancy here. You know what I'm saying? It's on one side you have Cake and Sensorica that kind of understand these trends of sharing economy, participatory economy, collaborative economy. So we can have a layer of a consultancy there,
yes,
and then a layer of consultancy at the technology level saying this is what you should use and why, right? And this solves your problem. Which is good, which is great, because we're providing more.
We're going to be the ad-ons. Like we are going to tell people that they have a problem that they didn't know they had, and then we're going to sell them a solution that they think they need. It's good money.
Evil a brand.
Yeah, evil Apple.
Okay, so should we go through the this phase that we're doing, the exploration?
Yeah, I think we should
people-
start going
Yeah.
through the exploration phase.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna share the screen here because I have the document open. Actually, I was actually taking some notes. So essentially, the first phase is just to do an exploration, literature review, mapping, and Jim proposed to have this also as an opportunity for Sensorica network or for Sensoricans to get up to speed with these new technologies, right? So essentially, there's a portion of the budget that will be dedicated to us learning and getting acquainted with the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one side of it, educating ourselves, and then having this swarm of information mining and synthesis, right? So we created a document for this. We call it exploration phase. That has some first instructions here, and you can find the link.
It's on the Sensorica forum, the communication from the discourse thing.
Right. Okay.
So within that has a bunch of links to, so it's crm.sensorica.co.
Okay. So let me show here on screen
Sure.
how you navigate. So you just go
Okay.
to the main source, which is the page on the Sensorica website. You find it by typing blockchain access,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a link to a forum, which is way down here. Click on that link.
That's our main discussion thread. And it also links to the mailing list project thread. So whatever's not discussed here, we're trying. This is sort of a learning curve for us too because we've never used this tool. But as we sort of acclimatize ourselves with the discourse forum for Sensorica, there's also a link in the project thread for the feasibility study that links to the mailing lists. So anything that gets sent to the Sensorica group under the subject heading for open access. So we have like an existing email thread for open access. If you click here, it says Sensorica mailing list project thread.
Oh yeah, I didn't
You
know
know,
that.
see, do you see it? Like it's right here. So if I click here,
Yeah.
it takes me to the Google group mailing list, and it has all of the emails that have gone back and forth since February or whenever we
Okay.
started
Okay.
talking
Yes.
about
Yes.
this.
Yes. Yes.
So if and essentially what the Sensorica discourse forum thread for this project is sort of a summary of everything that's been said on the mailing list, and they like link to each other. Right? That was kind of a side note. You were saying before we got on that.
Well, I was. Let me go back to Sensorica page. But no, so we were
Oh
just
yeah,
talking about the
okay.
exploration
How to
phase.
get exactly? So how to get acclimatized with the project would be essentially first visit the project page on the Sensorica website.
Yeah.
Then maybe go to the discourse forum and find all of the readings that are there, right? And essentially go deeper from there.
Yes, and if you want to join the project, there's a huge button here. There's also something important that people should know. It's the blockchain VAS, which is the page where you can see where we plan the project, have all these processes planned out. Probably going to do that towards the end of this meeting.
Mhm.
And then you can see how people are working on this. At this moment, there's two processes that are active, which is the exploration you can have a link from the document itself where we work. So this is a virtual space where we coordinate our information mining. And you can have a link here that leads you to the NRP page.
This here log time.
Yeah. So there you go. So essentially that's what it is. It's the project page that leads you to everything. And another thing that you should know is the VAS page, which is the NRP value accounting system. This is where we log contributions and we plan. I think there's a Trello and other things that are legacy because this project or something similar to this project started way back in Sensorica in collaboration with WeShare. And we should probably mention WeShare here, who were the instigators of an access, an open access project or access to open spaces, stuff like that. It's all linked on the main project page. We have a background information, and there's a huge document that has been created since October.
It's linked in both places.
Yeah. So another thing that has to be cleared is the governance and the value equation for the project. Maybe towards the end we can exchange some words about that. We don't have to start from scratch. There's a lot of templates that have been created in the past. We just have to go through them and see how we can remix them into something else. I think this project, it should be the way it's managed, and it should be our best shot ever. And that's also important because the federal government is looking at us. And,
yeah.
I
think we're getting better and better with the VAS. The first project that we did together a year or so ago was before the PV project. We had another one for
BARDA project.
Yeah, the BARDA project, and we were slow with logging our time and doing all the documentation. But every single time we pick up a new project, we get better and better. And especially with our latest IoT project, it's getting much better. We're doing things like in a very organized manner. So I think we're at a place where everything is falling into place now.
Yeah. Jimmy? Okay.
Moi, j'attends là qu'on avance là.
Yeah. Okay.
On to like division of tasks for the end of the week by what we should read or write about.
Why don't we start with what everybody did?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Does anybody have something to add? Should we start with blockchain? Does anybody have any major questions or some big blockers as something they don't understand?
Yeah, I do.
Is concerned. Okay, shoot.
The problem for me that I couldn't understand was this is related to the Bitcoin thing, and it might be very trivial, but I wasn't able to find the answer for it. Is why is there value associated with like when people say mining? I can understand that there is a transaction taking place. By transaction, I mean like there is a new block being created. So why do people get value out of that? Like I'm just
Okay.
I don't understand.
Okay.
Yes.
So I've put together a presentation of one of the primitives that make up the technology,
You want to share it?
which is the.
You're not connected.
I'm not connected anymore. Okay, hold on a second, guys.
I can pull it up for you if you want.
What's that?
I can pull it up for you. What's the name?
Bran, is your question essentially
Consensus protocols.
why is there value in mining?
Basically, yeah, because I don't see why. My problem with Bitcoin has always been that why are we creating coins for just using electricity? So why is there value associated? Why do people get money for processing power?
Well, okay, do you want to take it or?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll just give I might as well start this presentation that I started working on. So one of the big problems that
Just want to acknowledge that we have a new viewer.
we have a new viewer.
Daryl or something like that.
Hi.
Daryl.
Oh.
Hi, Daryl.
Take it away, Jim. You can go from here, up and down.
Okay. So when the big problem that that Bitcoin solved, okay, with the invention of the proof of work consensus protocol, is replacing a central authority with asset ownership. So the proof of work protocol, okay, it's a consensus model, okay, that makes database replication effective. Okay. Basically, all the nodes in the network collectively agree on a set of updates to the Bitcoin ledger. Okay. It solved the political problem of who gets to influence consensus while remaining resilient to Sybil attacks. Okay. So essentially, go out and buy the hardware and contribute to securing the network through cracking the cryptographic hash. Okay, you do understand that it's a competition, right? To broadcast the blocks, the valid blocks.
Yes.
Do you understand a bit how proof of work works? Okay, perfect.
No, I understand. I understand everything behind it. No, I mean, I just don't understand. Like, so I exchanged some money with somebody. Like, I exchanged bitcoins or information, or like I transferred ownership of a block to somebody else.
Yes.
Why would somebody make money out of that? Like, for a bank, I understand. Like, there is a certain risk involved, and there is certain manpower involved in making the transaction. But what about, why would somebody do that for a computer network?
I still don't understand your question.
Because somebody has to maintain the infrastructure, which is always there, but it's now distributed. It takes
So
takes physical.
the value is completely distributed between all the people who have the database.
Oh, you mean the no? It's a competition.
Okay, so one person, even though it's being transferred to all the different nodes, all of them are getting the update, and all of them are using their spaces.
Okay.
Well,
Let's start from the beginning.
Should we really go into the beginning, because it's going to make the thing very slow for
Okay. It's okay. Let's forget about this question. Move on, and then I can call you on a personal level and find out.
Okay.
Abraham, I can send you, I've got a massive open online course about Bitcoin. It's like, I think, 12 weeks and maybe 5 or 6 videos by week, all about Bitcoin and proof of concept and everything. I think I'm going to put on the drive for people, like for education, for what is exactly Bitcoin, what is exactly cryptocurrencies. It's a course that was given by Princeton. So it's very nice.
Yeah, I think I've heard about this, and I'm going to join in. I think it's on Coursera. Somebody mentioned it on our previous meeting.
But just very lightly in a few sentences, okay? Proof of work is a competition, okay? The blocks that are being broadcasted, it's only one node
gets the authenticator.
Gets the right to broadcast a valid block, okay? The transactions build up over time. They stay in kind of a buffer, okay? People start working on what they feel is the proper vision of the transactions, okay? Once they crack that cryptographic puzzle, they gain the authority to broadcast the valid block. Okay, it's very difficult to crack to find the challenge, and it's extremely quick to verify the challenge. So once somebody cracks the puzzle, the block is broadcasted to every node. Everyone verifies if they agree the transactions are valid, meaning there's no double spending, the order of transactions are correct, the data is valid. Once everybody agrees, that block goes onto the chain.
Is appended.
Okay, and the person that the node that broadcasted the block gets to add the special create transaction, which gives them 25 bitcoins at the moment, right? Or was it? Is that happening?
Well, the reward or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the incentivization mechanism. It's not a collaborative effort. It's everybody.
Competition.
Yes, exactly.
It's a race.
Yes.
For permission and for private blockchains, I think we'll be removing that incentivization from this. Like
Yes.
for,
Yes.
for government, like there won't be any need for incentivization.
Well, there wouldn't be a token exchange on a private blockchain because there's no interest in it, right?
Well, you could still have tokenization
Yeah.
and token mechanisms. Of course you can, but
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be backed by anything.
no, exactly.
Yeah.
No, of course.
It'd be
So
doing
It makes more sense now. Okay.
the monetary component of it is the like Valentin was saying, is the incentivization of getting people to use their hardware to do this, right?
And to keep the consensus strong.
And to keep their machines running and their bandwidth being used, because all of these things have an associated cost. The hardware has a cost, the power has a cost, the bandwidth has a cost. So if you boil it down to, if you remove all of the speculative aspect of Bitcoin, of people trading it on exchanges and stuff, the work itself, like the proof of work, the transaction, you could determine the physical cost per machine of what a discovery or of a block could be, right? You could say it took me so many processor cycles that were done in this much of a time on
No, I
hardware
understand that.
cost this
Yeah,
much,
I understand
power,
that.
et cetera, et cetera. So like there's a monetary value for that, but then above and beyond, people, because there's like a trust element and an exchange linked to it. There's this whole speculative aspect to now.
Yeah,
it's
I
worth
think
whatever it's
currently
worth,
like
a couple $100.
Bitcoin is running at like eight years of rate of return or something like that. Like
Exactly.
if you invest in the
Well,
cost is about 8
right. Earlier on, when there was no exchange or speculative component to it, then and the difficulty of the network was low. That value was more representative of what the actual work was worth, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're sort of getting sidetracked.
Yeah, we're getting sidetracked.
Yeah, sorry. That's why I said like I'll ask on a different.
Since I have the presentation open, I'll just show you some of the work. Like I said, I've been studying consensus protocols, and Abraham, just to take note that the consensus protocol known as proof of work started off in the Bitcoin network. Okay. Since then, there has been a number of different other variances of proof of work and a couple of other different schemas that people have come up with. There's been a lot of research done in this field, and it's an ongoing research. By the way, some of them have been applied to cryptocurrencies, okay, that are actually in use. A lot of them are theoretical. A lot of them haven't been tested. Okay. So the question is, can one size blockchain fit all? Can one do it all? Okay. Nakamoto consensus, which is the name of the proof of work behind the Bitcoin network, which is dates from 2009, was a brilliant invention. It replaced centralized authority with asset ownership. So proof of work substitutes a formal barrier to participation, such as the requirement to be on a list or being delegated the task or an institution with a bunch of members. It replaced it with an economic barrier. So the weight of a single node in a consensus voting process is directly proportional to the computer power that the node brings. Okay. This is, of course, over time, because it is a competitive scheme, right? There's only one node that could broadcast a proper block, but of course, nodes with bigger hashing power get to do it more often. Okay. There's been there's various shortcomings to this. First of all, it's expensive, huge energy consumption. It offers very poor scalability for widespread blockchain use. Performance doesn't increase as a network grows, which means if you have 10,000 nodes or if you have 10 nodes, the amount of transactions you could do per second or the amount of transactions you could process does not change, because the only thing they contribute is to the consensus mechanism, okay, not to the processing of transactions. The latency is slow for the Bitcoin network. It's anywhere from 1 to 10 minutes, okay? And also, it's only eventually consistent. So there's no transaction finality at each block. In other words, once...
To wait for propagation.
What's that?
You have to wait for propagation for finalizing, right?
No, it's not inherent to the actual protocol. Okay, when a block forms, when somebody gets to broadcast their block, there could be other valid blocks, right?
That supersede that one.
Well, not
Like
that supersede
the
it.
same transaction.
There could be two chains forming temporarily. There's always two. There's always. It's always the longest chain that wins.
Right.
Okay, so that's what when we say we need. You want block height for proper confirmation, especially once in the fintech world for Bitcoin, it's like the bigger the amount of Bitcoins you're transferring, you want to wait up to a certain amount of blocks, right?
Yeah.
So that means that you're not exactly 100% sure. There's no transaction finality per block. And they use 6 because I think there was one mining pool that actually produced 6 blocks one after the other.
Really?
In a row.
Yeah,
So that's the standard.
Okay.
I mean, if you buy a pack of gum with your Bitcoin wallet, okay, once the transaction, once the actual transaction, what's it called? Once the encoding is confirmed as a valid transaction, the sale's passed, right? Okay, you don't even need to wait a 10-minute confirmation time until it gets included into a block. So is there a solution to these shortcomings? There's been a lot of propositions, the main one being proof of stake. Okay. Proof of stake replaces the need for computing power in the consensus mechanism with token ownership. Your weight is proportional to the amount of tokens you hold and how much you're willing to stake to validate the transactions. Okay, it's a green protocol. It means that it doesn't waste any energy except for the laptop you're running on. Okay. There's faster transaction times. There are some shortcomings. I have not finished the presentation. I'll start marking what they are. The biggest one is nothing at stake. So what happens when somebody removes their tokens and then starts misbehaving with older transactions?
Like invalidating?
Yes, invalidating. Yes,
old transactions.
Yes. There's
and removing their stake from the network, essentially, so they still have the possibility to invalidate, but they don't have the penalty of losing the stake.
Exactly. That is the biggest shortcoming. It's huge. Okay.
And, well, I think there's more, but
yeah, there's more. No, but there's a lot of schemes. I haven't finished this. Casper is probably the biggest project right now as far as proof of stake I see. It's the consensus protocol that will power the Ethereum network in the future. Okay. It's a security deposit-based authentication and security mechanism.
So it demands a stake in order.
It demands a stake. It's a bonded stake. There's an unbonding period in the amount of tokens that you bond.
Yeah. Because they lock it into a smart contract, right?
Yes, in a private blockchain application. Yeah, exactly. In a private blockchain application, of course, this could be replaced by a delegated proof of stake, the same way that BitShares use. Does anybody have any experience with BitShares and how the protocol works a little bit?
No, not really.
Je pense que toi t'en connais un petit peu, hein? Pas assez? Okay. Yeah. So anyways, these are the different call them strategies. For we have some baseline consensus methods now, and there's a race to find the more effective ones, the ones with the quicker transaction times. There's Scepter also that Tibi's been looking at, and I've looked at lately too, which have different a different view. It's like it's what we would call quorum slicing.
Group-based consensus, right?
Yes, but this goes down to two individual nodes starting off the consensus mechanism instead of globally achieving a consensus per block, per transaction. That's something interesting to look at. So anyways, that's what I've been focusing on.
It doesn't require the full network propagation for validity.
What's that?
Right? It doesn't require propagation.
No, you enter the network, you don't know who to trust, you decide who to trust. And if you need group trust, it bubbles up to group trust. Which is, I know Casper is sort of going to be going towards that, not down to 2 nodes. I still don't know exactly how it works exactly. I know that they've. Did you have anything to add about that, about Scepter?
Well, I don't know it in depth. I'm just I'm just surfing on it a little bit, and and it's maybe 2-3 years in the future. It's not
Okay,
a mature
that's
Kind
technology.
of far away.
It's far away, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not something they can implement.
Well,
now.
me, I'm having trouble thinking of the use cases for that. I mean, there is use cases, yes, but I don't see it as a use case for any cryptocurrency or any digital currency. Maybe for private currencies or something, or
Well, they're they're driven by another idea.
Yeah.
It's not what they want to allow is currencies, which is a broader category that includes monetary currencies.
Mhm.
So what they want to surface is different aspects of people's participation in economic processes, in governance, which can give you reputation, exposure, whatever, access to resources and stuff like that.
Build trust, essentially.
Well,
Where does it
can
come
be
from? Yeah.
trust-based or something else. The idea here is to have in place what they call symbolic systems that organize flows. That's the most generic definition that they have of a currency. It's any symbolic system that organizes flows. It can be flows of material, it can be flows of people, flows of knowledge, flows of all the stuff.
Okay.
And these are currencies that behave in very different ways. There's different types of currencies. Monetary currency is an exchange type currency, meaning I give you something and you give me the equivalent amount of tokens.
There's somebody else just joined too.
No, it's
No, it was me. I just
Oh,
connected.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's in the future. So let me talk a little bit about what I'm working on. So I did some pictures because Jim's presentations are the visual is better for a video, so I decided to make some pictures. So I'm very influenced by Michel Bauwens, the Peer-to-Peer Foundation. I actually included one of Michel Bauwens' article on the partner state. Going back to these requirements, anything that you propose has to take into consideration implementation costs, switching costs, and updates, future updates. Now, when we talk about future updates, usually people think about, they changed the OS or they changed something, the technology got better, I have to do an upgrade. We have to realize that these are technologies that are affecting institutions. Okay, they're not just making computers go faster or making games work better. These technologies, they really affect how institutions operate. So when we talk about future upgrades, we're talking about organizations like governments and companies and public institutions that will essentially be transformed by these technologies, so their model will change. Therefore, they need upgrades in terms of their infrastructure to match their new model as they shift. So now, since one of our targets is government and their use of this technology, access for their own buildings and stuff, I borrow from the Peer-to-Peer Foundation the concept of the partner state. This is the prediction of the Peer-to-Peer Foundation, how the state will change, will evolve in the near future. So what we see here is would be different types of spaces, like the government space, public spaces, shared spaces, and private spaces. Okay, so you essentially have the emergence of three pillars here. Instead of just talking about private-public partnerships, we talk about private, public, and people partnerships. And these are shown here by the pictures. So shared spaces are commons. Essentially, they're spaces that are put together by local initiatives. People getting together and making a Fab Lab. Okay, commons is a new form of ownership, and everything is tied to different types of ownership. So the question here is, if you talk about spaces that have different forms of ownership and different security requirements, different use requirements, how do we create something that provides access to these three little guys, happy faces here, to all these spaces what I mean by that is that the system allows the person to identify him or herself, and then according to these individuals' activities, reputation, they can or cannot access some type of spaces. So I group them into high security, medium security, and low security. For example, if you want to access high security government space, not everybody will be able to access, but the technology that allows you to access is the same. If you want to access a public library, it's not as high security, but the requirements to access this will be different.
Do you think that just a nationwide identity management system that gives you access would be something that's viable and feasible?
I think it's feasible. The question is, in terms of infrastructure, where do you put information? I mean, here's the whole debate between big platforms where you have centralization of information and peer-to-peer kind of
Forget
society.
about where you put it. I'm saying, would it be viable? If everybody could have an identity, and you have the blockchain that manages everybody's identity, and you have different permissions set for access for different types of different infrastructure, would it be something that's viable?
I think so. And what blockchain can do is provide a token of identity and credentials without necessarily linking it to your personal, physical, existence, right? So, what the blockchain does, so Bitcoin is digital cash, okay? So,
No, but the point is not to have it. You need an identity. You can't be synonymous like the coins.
no, well,
I
no.
think I'm gonna jump in.
The idea of digital identification
Yes.
is that you can still keep privacy if you use blockchain. That's the whole idea.
Right, the
Meaning
uniqueness.
the guy at the door doesn't have to know who I am really if I have a token
Oh yes.
to
okay,
identify myself that
yes,
has
for
been
sure.
issued by some other authority
Yes.
with the credential to access the space. You see what I'm saying? So
I have 2 points I want to add over here. One is that Estonia is already using this for their tax filing, etc.
Yes.
They already have a blockchain that's set up for this. It's called KSI. So it is possible. And the other thing is that my understanding is that with a distributed ledger system, like you can have a transaction level key. So a certain organization can have access to certain parts of the information if they have the right access. So
No, you're cutting out. Brian?
yeah, Brandon, you're offline.
Yeah, we didn't get the last 30 seconds to a minute of what you said.
Oh, I think he's lost his connection probably.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll continue. I just
no,
find-
I'm back.
You hear?
Okay.
Can
Yeah.
you
The other thing I wanted to say was, there's this example given in the UK exploratory study that they did, that for example, if financial institutions use blockchain and government institutions are also using blockchain, then a person's identity in a healthcare system requires privacy. But certain healthcare providers are going to need information, and certain government entities are going to need information on financial dealings. So the court can authorize through a specific key that you can access certain parts of the blockchain, because each transaction can be coded. Like the smart contract can dictate what transaction, not at a whole database level, but at each transaction level, you can encode what can be accessed or not.
Now you're getting.
My
you're-
understanding is that.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry.
You say now you're getting into what blockchain could do as a database technology is permission per cell, per row, per instance.
Exactly. That's what I was pointing to. Was like you can have very minute details, and that too can. And it's not necessary that you have that encoded in the whole database at the top level. You
No.
can grant that. Yeah, exactly. Like you can have that granted to a third entity, like a third party, like a court system. Justice system can grant access to an institution that, okay, you can access this, and the justice system just has to write a smart contract to enable it, and that too for a set time, for a set like a set time frame or any other condition that they want to put in.
Brian, I started a presentation that exactly defines, it showcases exactly what you're talking about right now. If you could join it and help me finish it.
Yeah, sure, sure. I would love to. I just got into it because I think I mentioned I was traveling, so the only time I got to read and understand all these things was the last 24 hours. So it's not that much, but I did understand these parts.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, just to finish my
Share a link. Sorry, Jim. Share a link with me, and I'll try to help out.
Okay, it's there.
just
Okay,
to finish my
perfect.
idea here, I see a pattern emerging from the things I read. The pattern is that you need local knowledge in order to verify and set authorization for people. And when you look at all these spaces, there are like two large categories of people. One of them that you can call place keepers. They're attached to the place. They manage the place. They control access and so on and so forth. They oversee the use of the space. I call these, this is a support structure. I call these placekeepers. And then you see the floating users. These are people that walk around with identity cards and just use the space, but are not involved in maintaining or, they're not embedded in the support structure of the space. So, when you talk about high security, medium security, and low security, when you talk about private ownership of spaces, public ownership of spaces, or high security government spaces, you have your own placekeepers, and they set the rules and the permissions. They set and verify authorization. They have local knowledge, and they inform the reputation system. Okay, meaning that when users come, if they break something, if they misbehave, if they access zones that they're not allowed to, then they can report. So you have a feedback system. And then the users, they're required to identify themselves, show authorization, and must respect rules and have reputation. There's also a requirement from the placekeepers, which is to guarantee access to those that have that are authorized in a safe way. Blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? So this is the main pattern that I can see here. So I'll continue to dig.
Cool. I'd just like to give a chance to, I believe, Daryl. Daryl's joined our hangout. Daryl, did you want to maybe tell us about your interest?
Well, I'm fairly new at all this, so I'm mostly just kind of surfing around and listening to what you guys are all talking about. I don't have a lot to contribute yet, but still exploring.
Okay, cool. Have you been studying a little bit cryptocurrencies and blockchain?
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you from?
Familiar with the math and the general principles, but curious to see what everybody's trying to do and where it's trying to go.
Okay. Where are you from?
Los Angeles.
Oh, LA. Cool. Cool. Well, I think we're going to take a little break. Take a little breather, guys. 5 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a gorgeous day outside, and
Should we stop the broadcasting and
you want to pause it, or?
yeah, sure.
You can pause it. We have to start a new one.
Oh, you have to restart a new one?
Yeah, I will have to be somewhere at 6 o'clock, so I might
What time is it now?
I might have to leave
10
in
to
half an hour.
5?
Okay.
Anybody has a car?
Well, what is the... Like, let's wrap this up quickly, because now we did a long
Well, I think we still have a lot to talk
discussion.
about.
Yeah,
We should
exactly.
continue,
On the agenda, we still have the
Governance.
EAS and governance that we
Yeah.
need to address, and we still have by the end of the week, by Friday, we need like a division of task to be sort of set up, or at least like
The deliverables.
we have to figure out what we're sending out on Friday for the project update, right?
Yeah.
So those three things we need to touch on after the quick break.
Okay. So just for Daryl, because he might be new to how Zentorica operates, this is an open project, and we're setting up the governance of the project and the way the funding that we have for the project will be distributed to participants. So if you come and watch the video later, or if you're still here, you're going to see a little bit how an open value network operates.
All right, thank you.
Cool.
Okay.
Ok,
All right.
c'est-
Okay, break time.
Okay.